So, if you've been going on my YouTube channel, you're probably wondering, who is this and why am I subscribed to them? Uh, and then you're probably going in there and thinking, oh, this guy made this one wacky video once, and I should probably unsubscribe from him. I don't know who this is. Um, I make wacky videos, but I also have been working on Unity stuff. You might have noticed there's a few videos that are the most recent. I have been making a wacky pizza game with a robot arm, and I thought I would just show you some of the things I've been working on. Even though a lot of them are in those update videos, I'm thinking of putting myself on the webcam and showing things that I've been working on now. I'm just talking about them out loud because I plan on working on Unity a lot in the future. So here we go. Here's the pizza game that I've been working on. I'll just start off by showing it to you. I'll maximize it. So we got the pizza here. The basic gist of the game is somewhere off on the right here there'd be a little window like you would see in like a diner or some kind of place where the order comes in, you get the order on a piece of paper or it would just pop up in a menu and it would say we want this particular pizza, this style, these ingredients. So what's going on is you'd make the pizza and you just put it on the order to go, and it's like one of those games, kind of like I know there's a lot of phone games kind of like that. I don't really play those. It'll have some kind of more charming element to it, and 3D, something like this. I don't know, kind of just a beginning game before I work on anything that I think is a bit more exciting, but I think this is a fun start. So we're just gonna, you obviously how it would start off is you would have to put on certain ingredients. So far all I have is these pourable ingredients right here, like Parmesan or something, and basically this is a canister, and obviously all the visual things are very temporary. The only thing that has even a slight amount of effort put into it visually is the robot arm, but that still took me like 5 minutes, so whatever. Got these cans here, which are basic cylinders I just created in Unity, but it's got a script on it so that when I tilt it to a certain degree, it starts pouring the Parmesan. And it has a finite amount. You can see indicated at the top of the item that there's this little bar that keeps its distance, and depending on the angle you're pouring, it'll pour faster when you're pouring all the way down. That's actually two set values, a slow one and a fast one. I can adjust the speed, but I have it set so it's divided by the speed is divided by a certain amount depending on those two values, so it doesn't really scale throughout the entire thing depending on the angle. Like if you pour like this, it's going to pour at a certain speed until you get here, and then it's going to pour faster. In the future I'm going to make it so that it slowly speeds up as you tilt it all the way down, how it would in real life. Obviously I'm not going for realism or anything, I just think that that would be a good feature for it. Another thing I've implemented is the pizza here. As you've seen already, you can rotate items, but I have this little oven here. It'll be better looking, and you'd have to, I believe, put up the door to the oven to make it start, but I have it set right now so that if you just put the pizza in right now, as you can see, it's changing color, it's cooking, and when you take it out, it stops cooking. I'd say it's nice and crispy. It's kind of dark right there, but you can put it back in, and if you don't pay attention to it, it could burn and you ruin the order. Probably right below the arm there'll be a little dispensary thing that would shoot the dough out onto this little block so that you could start a new pizza whenever you want. There'd probably be a trash can that you could throw that pizza into. So let's go back out of the game and look at the scripts that I've been working on and how the game works. So there's a lot of cluttered stuff around here. It's all kind of, a lot of it collapses into these smaller categories, but it is still a lot of garbage. Like this one, just an object called cube. Need to organize this. But let's see. Let's start off with the script with the tilting of the ingredients. So I have my scripts down here. My pour object that I can apply to any item that I want to end up being something that pours some ingredient. So basically what's happening is I have these floats. I can set the amount. I can get the angle that it's set to, that it's being manipulated at, and so I'm just grabbing the angle right here, and whatever the angle ends up being, it does whatever's in the script. Like when it's at this angle, for some reason, when I'm grabbing the X angle, which is what I'm doing, because I don't see a reason to grab any of the other angles, because everything's going to be pretty much locked onto this one axis, so it's not really going to matter. But when I grab the X angle, it kind of grabs it from just like how you would like use a shader, or it's just some kind of magnification of some sort, where it's like 0 to 1 instead of like the full angle from 0 to 360. I guess that's Euler Angles, and I haven't really learned how to do Euler Angles to any extent so far. I've used it in a few things, but mostly from tutorials, so I'll look into that at some point. But when I'm just grabbing the raw X angle, I guess from, it's a quaternion or something, I don't know. But I'm just grabbing the one X angle, it goes from 0 to 1 for the tilt of it, so it's fully up, and then tilting to the left, it's going from 0 to -1 when it's all the way down, and then 0 to 1 completely. So I don't know, but when it's at a certain angle past the center of it, it starts to pour right here, and then when it gets to a certain point, it pours faster. And right here you can see just edit some of the particle system things, like turn on the particle system, got some debugging stuff so that it's easier to see what's going on. And you can see that, like, here's the pour speed, and then half the pour speed when it's going slower. And then there's the current amount. Where is it? I'm just subtracting the current amount by time dot delta time. So I'm not sure how to make that more precise so that I can display it later. Maybe through integers instead of floats, I'm not sure. And then I have the showing the amount that's being poured here, and this is just to this script here is just to keep this meter that shows how much you have in the object floating directly above the object here, so it just keeps it directly above it and doesn't tilt it when you tilt it. And it's grabbing the current amount from the other script, I believe. Yeah, see public pour object. So it's grabbing the pour object dot current amount, and setting it to the local scale y. So it's just shrinking on the y-axis because it's accessing that current amount, which is eventually going to 0. So once it equals 0, I just destroy the object, I believe. So when we look at the hand controls, I'll get back to this, it's a little more complicated. Go to this bounding controls. So what's happening here is the only thing in the script are bools. I just have 4 public bools: R bound, L bound, T bound, and B bound, and that's right, left, top, and bottom. And I'll show you in a second what that's being used for. Let's just take the set and disable that. Disable the pizza. Pretty much everything that I am not going to be looking at. Where's the other one right there? So just keep the rig for now, the robo arm rig, and let's go in there. And I have these bounding boxes right here, and I'll show you what's going on with those. Let's actually also look at the grabber, which is the point that is in front of the robo arm that's showing what can be grabbed. I'll talk about that in a second. Oh, sorry, gotta not maximize it. Keep the edit window open. So let's look at this from a different angle actually. So what's going on here is that the arm is reaching these little bounding boxes, and that's keeping it from overextending itself to a point where can't really so if I didn't have anything to keep it in place, the target that the inverse the IK arm is trying to reach will just go on forever, and it'll just go off the screen, and then the IK will fully extend itself, and it won't extend itself back unless the target comes back. So to keep that target from going out of this area, I have these bounding boxes here, and you can see it gets a little jittery in the corners, and that's because the hand controls, the thing that's moving the manipulator around, is moving it in a direction, and it's trying to move it in a direction past these bounding blocks, and when it tries to get there, when the distance from the manipulator to this bounding block is under a certain amount, it applies an opposite force, forcing it back within the boundings. So it's actually fighting itself right now, where the hand controls are telling it to move in that direction, but the script for the hand controls is also getting the information of the distance for the bounding blocks and telling it to move back. So it's just constantly saying move back, move forward, move back, move forward, so it's getting jittery. I'll fix that at some point. Probably a good way to do that would be at a certain point, maybe just disable the hand controls when it's reaching too far. So let's look at what else we got. Along with the grabber, there should be this object here, which is trying to move itself to the position of the grabber. The grabber's right here. And so when I move the arm around, as you can see in the game window down there, the camera is trying to look at the smaller object that's moving there. This is the camera target. So the camera target is trying to move to the position of the grabber, so we get a nice lerping camera movement. Look at script right there, and it's I think it looks well. At some point I was thinking of doing 2 arms, 2 manipulators, but with mouse controls it was kind of complicated and it was stupid, so I didn't do it. But I had a nice thing going on where it would take this camera target and it would set an equidistant between the 2 manipulators, so it would be like kind of like in a one-on-one fighting game camera, where no matter where the characters are on the screen, the camera always has them within the viewfinder. So even if the 2 arms moved in different directions, the camera would move it in such a way that everybody would be in the screen at once, and I thought that was very interesting. I might use that for something else, but not for this game. I'm going to stick with the 1 robot arm on this, which I will redesign at some point. All the assets are definitely very temporary. I didn't put much effort into anything except for maybe the robot arm, which of course I'll redesign anyway. But see what else we have. So the pickup object script I have right here is just taking that grabber and when that grabber is in this trigger, which is any of the, no, I believe the grabber itself is a trigger, and it's entering the collision box of any objects like the pizza object or the pourable ingredients, and when it does that, it enters the object, grabs it, and then gets the component rigid body from that object, and then it takes that rigid body and it applies the transformation to the grabber, so, and it becomes a parent of the grabber, and it slightly lerps the position, but for the most part it's completely keeping itself in that exact position. I had it before where it set the object to kinematic, but if it's set to kinematic, it will just go through other objects, and that's not what I want, of course. I mean, it won't go through other objects, but if another object is kinematic, then they're just going to intersect and it's not going to do anything interesting. And to let go of it, you just press one of the mouse buttons again to drop it. And for mouse button 1, it just rotates it on the x-axis, grabs the mouse X input, how in the same way that let's see, in the same way that it's grabbing the mouse X input for this input and moving the object around, I just have it so that it no longer moves the arm when you rotate things, and it will just add that input to the object rotating instead. So moving, holding right click, and I think that's mostly all I have to show so far. I'm liking how it's going. I'm learning a lot from working on this small project, and I'll probably make more games in the future. And I'm gonna finish this one and probably end up selling it on Steam or something for like $3. I don't know, just as my first game. But I have a list of things that I have to get done for it, of course. I always find that make like a Google Doc of stuff that you have to get done each day and just do them, and you'll get it done a lot faster. So I'm enjoying it, and glad I could show you what I've been working on. Hopefully come back and watch more videos. I'll be posting more Unity stuff in the future, and that's it. I don't know. I'm not really posting this because I want to get subscribers or people looking at my things. It's kind of like just a developer diary kind of thing. Even though I have, you know, worked on it quite a bit before showing off any of the old assets or anything like that. But thank you. See ya.